All right, so you're trying to set the perfect lineup. You want to win. It's week 1. Even if it's not week 1, you need to know, how do I set the perfect fantasy football lineup? Let's talk about it. All right, so there's a lot of things that go into picking a perfect fantasy football lineup. First off, I'll tell you, you're not going to pick the perfect fantasy football lineup.
We just promised them that.
I know, but it's impossible to do. Just be prepared. Things are going to be crazy, especially in week 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to help you as best we can, give you some tips that should help you take down your opponents. So first, let's hit them with some of these tools that we use, Chris, every week when we're making these decisions. Start, sit. That's what this is all about. Who am I going to start? Who am I going to sit? And first tool that I always use and have used for many, many years is Fantasy Pros Rankings. It's a website that actually compiles all of the experts. These guys nerd out about this all week. It's their full-time jobs, a lot of them, to go through and rank these players. So if you come into here, you'll see there's all sorts of ways you can choose the type of expert you want. I can do another tutorial where I break down this tool, but I just wanted to show you guys this option. You can go and sort it by the position you need. So if you're a quarterback, and let's say that you have a Jalen Hurts, and you also drafted Kyler Murray for some weird reason. They actually have Kyler Murray lower than Jalen Hurts this week. So go ahead and put in Jalen Hurts in your lineup. So that's just pretty much how that'll work, and you can kind of see what they think this start-sit grade is, and there's all sorts of great things inside of that tool. And then for tool number 2, I'm going to kick it over to Chris. What is another tool that we use?
We love to fact-check our rankings. So Fantasy Pros pulls from a bunch of guys, but we love the fantasy footballers as well. If you can see here on my screen, on the top tab here, you see rankings. It comes down every position, defense and kickers as well. And you can customize here with your point system so you can reflect what you're playing in within your league. And just look at between Andy, Jason, and Mike where they see players. And it's another good tool just to make sure if you have to take that hard decision about who to start over here off of your bench. But on week 1 or during a bye week, this tool helps you out because you can validate your decision, or you can be surprised and say, wow, I was so off. The consensus pick here about one of the best podcasts around. I should go with the footballers rankings here, and we even use it ourselves.
Yeah, they got some great tools in there. I think you can even pay for some premium ones where it lets you compare a bunch of players with each other and kind of give you a chart. Great option. The
news and articles, before we go off here, are something that doesn't get used very well on these type of websites, but they use other experts to help write in those. If you're a guy that needs the story of what to do, we had a guy need that narrative. Our old co-host Ryan was all about the narrative. If you need something to help you figure out why their rankings are like this, look at all these great articles it provides on the website as well.
All right, and the next tool we're going to talk about is our own Facebook group. So if you guys would jump into that, it would be fantastic.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, there'll be a link in our description for this, but it's really about just the community of people that are all trying to make these decisions. If you can find a group of people that are trying to decide start-sit decisions, sometimes you're just in the thick of it. It's your own team, and you get your head stuck in one way. It's nice to hear some outside opinions that aren't even necessarily from experts. So we will be inside of there answering these questions, but you'll see here a shout out to one of our good friends, Josiah. He's always in here asking these questions, and you'll see we come down here and give you answers, give you what we think, what the best is. You can't come after us if we're wrong. Unfortunately, we are wrong sometimes, but we do a lot of research, more than we should, so we hope that we can help you out with that. So get into a good group of guys that kind of you can bounce these ideas off of. Inside of our own league, we actually have a league chat to where we will talk about, as long as we're not playing each other, we'll kind of bounce off who should I start this week. But yeah, those are the 3 tools that I use every single week when I'm doing this. But now we're going to move on to a couple of tips specifically for week 1. So if you're not in week 1, you can hit that skip button. I think these apply to everyone else as well. But we're also going to do a 5 for just the regular. So for week 1 specifically, I think that one of the things that you have to be conscious of that I think a lot of new fantasy players don't think of is if I drafted a guy really high, I have to put him in my starting lineup.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. A player like a Breece Hall, I think, rookies are often these guys to where Breece Hall is going to be fantastic at the end of the year, I think. But week 1, we don't know what the workload is. It could be Michael Thomas, being ranked ahead of him. Or could be, or not Michael Thomas, Michael Carter could be getting the reps ahead of him. And so you have to be careful of situations like that. Going back to my tools, I will go to Fantasy Pros and I will not start Breece Hall over a guy like A.J. Dillon, who you probably could have gotten later in your draft. But I think that the workload is more secure for an A.J. Dillon, and he's a guy that I would start in week 1. So just be conscious of those. I don't want you to think that it's, across the board. There are definitely guys that even though they're ranked a little bit lower, you may just say, hey, I want to go with the guy I drafted, which you can do. But don't be bound up by that. My 4th round pick was this guy. I have to put him in my lineup.
Yeah, and another tip here, play a little safer with your decisions in week 1. This is not the time to go crazy because we don't have the facts. We don't have the proof yet behind some of these guys. If you were drafting a lot of young guys on your bench and you're like, oh, this guy could outperform this dude. No,
Sky Moore could explode in week 1.
Stay with the known commodity and be surprised by your depth later.
Yeah.
Don't play it cute and think you're going to surprise everyone in week 1. It doesn't matter if your team didn't do that great in the week 1 matchup. You've got 14, 15 more weeks to make it up. Play it safe at the start and then see what the proof in the pudding is off of week 1.
Yeah, it's a little spoiler to later, but we'll have a tip later that's kind of the opposite of that. In season, you may want to not play it as safe.
Yeah,
so
it's week 1 specific.
Now, number 3 for me, don't look at the projections in your platform. This is one of the biggest mistakes I think people make is they go to their sleeper app, they open it, and they go to their matchup tab and they're looking and they're going, oh my gosh, I have Joe Mixon and he's only projected 15 points, and for some reason their projections are all whacked out and they think Ken Walker is going to have 40 points. That's a complete outrageous thing. But that's just how outrageous these rankings are that inside of these projected things. Don't go off of your, projected pointage inside of your platform. Be cautious of that and don't look at those projections. Don't look at them at all because they'll make you think you're going to lose that week, and who knows? They're pretty bad at predicting those things. So, all right, so now that we've helped the week 1ers out, we're going to go to everybody. So if you're in season, these tips can help you at any point. And I think they're things that people often forget. And I'm going to throw it to Chris here to start the first one out.
All right, so the first thing you got to do is check weather and injury updates, not on Friday, not on Saturday, but Sunday morning. Yep. I mean, as soon as you hit snooze on the phone to wake up, you should be open up the app. And if you look here on Sleeper, I got pulled up one of my leagues that I'm in here, and there's little icons that help you figure out injuries and also weather. So here on Sleeper, I'm looking at, Najee Harris playing in Cincinnati. That's a little cloud icon. You see my little cursor going on over here. Green Bay's playing at Minnesota. That's a dome. That's telling you there's no weather factor into the game. All right. Over here, Jalen Waddle playing New England. They got a little icon with the sun coming out. You can tell what looks rainy, like possibly in Chicago for Trey Lance in week 1, and who shouldn't be affected by weather. But then also here comes the injury tabs. You're going to see right next to their names, or right next to that weather icon in Sleeper, questionable, out, doubtful. Those things you want to click on. You want to read what's going on with Jalen Waddle. Like for me, I want to find out, are they going to play or are they out? You never want to say, oh, I set my lineup the day before. Now I got a guy that's out and you just basically lost the matchup. Or you didn't give yourself a chance to really win because you have 0 points sitting in your starting slot.
All right, and then another one that I didn't do this very often, and I think Chris even mentioned that it's not one he's utilized often, but hopefully now Chris will do it as well.
Hopefully.
And that is look at the over-unders. Vegas is smart. They have a lot of money on the line. They're going to make pretty smart projections.
They know what they're doing.
I like to go to the Las Vegas over-unders. So what I'll do is I'll type in Vegas over-under for the NFL, and usually we'll bring up the week that I'm in so I can see here. I'll click on this website, and I'll actually have this in the description for you guys. This is a great website that breaks down each team, what their implied team total is. This is how many points they're going to score according to Vegas, and then also the spread, which is just the total of the game of how many points will be scored. So this is something where I'll go in and I'll look for these high ones. If I'm deciding between two players and I can't decide what to do, I'll pick somebody in a higher or over-under because it could be one of those bonanza games where tons of points are being shelled out. So here you go. You've got the Cardinals are playing the Kansas City Chiefs, 53 points being scored. That's a high. Compare it to the other numbers sitting here. That's somebody that I'm going to probably play, maybe, take a chance on Marquise Hollywood Brown week 1 coming out and having 2 touchdowns or something like that. That's what I look for is the high over-unders. And then the other one, if you're in a defense league and you're not sure what defense to pick, you can always play it safe. Go down to one of these games. You got the Saints playing the Falcons. Now, I probably wouldn't play the Falcons defense, but the Saints defense, I'd be pretty happy to play them because if I look over at the Atlanta Falcons, their over-under is not very high. So I just like going to the Vegas because I think that they know what they're talking about.
All right. And our third tip here, you want to start your studs even in bad matchups. So I'm looking over here on Sleeper, and I've seen Justin Jefferson as a stud on a lot of my teams. I'm a Viking fan. He's legit first-round pick. I'm not going to worry about versus Green Bay, and oh no, he's projected to score under 20. The matchup doesn't negate your stud. If he's a top 2 at his position, there should be no reason for you to bench him unless he's injured. Even bad matchups, studs like Justin Jefferson, 9 times out of 10 will rise up and still be double-digit scores week in and week out, and you have to trust that. You do not want to be the guy that overthinks a matchup because they're playing great DBs. Keep your studs in the lineup. There's a reason they're a stud. Trust them all the way.
All right, and for number 4, I'm going to tell you guys, this is the one that's kind of opposite, but put some boom players into your lineup during the regular season. So in week 1, might be need to be a little careful with that. But if you're playing that team that's dominant, they're undefeated this year, you need some boom guys. Don't be scared to play a guy like a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, somebody who's going to, bank on that 60-yard touchdown to win you the week. You want to have those guys in your lineup if you're going against a team that's projected high. Now, like I said, don't be always basing it off of those sleeper projections, but just look at the records, look at the teams, see how they've been doing. If they're one that's been dominating teams, maybe you need to put some boom guys in there. And then the inverse is true. If you are playing, a team that looks like they've been a bottom feeder, they've not been playing well, or maybe there's somebody who's not even checking their lineup and they don't have a full lineup in there, play it safe. Put in those safer guys. Put in some running backs that have, higher carries, more assured players. That's what I'm doing in the safer situations. But ultimately, don't be afraid to put boom guys in.
All right, number 5. Don't be afraid to sit your middle tier players against bad matchups. Sometimes we're afraid to do number 4, like Sean said, and put the boom guy in there. So number 5, trust your gut. If it's a middle tier guy, like a Singletary at running back sitting in your flex going against the Rams, right? Oh, that defense is kind of good. I might look for a boom guy. I'm going to sit him there. Singletary is a middle tier player. Those type of guys, don't be afraid to sit them because you got to go out there and get wins. You can't be saying, I'm just going to play the projections. If a middle tier guy's got a bad matchup, look and see if there's something you can put in place to give you that exciting boom and take over the week.
And when I think this really comes into play is when last week they had a great week. That's what happens often. These middle tier players, they have boom weeks and they have bust weeks. And if you go off of last week's where, your running back scored 2 touchdowns, you're feeling all jacked up about this guy, but now he's playing the number 1 run defense and you're like, well, you know what? He did me well last week. I'm putting him in my lineup. You can't have that. Not with with a stud like a Dalvin Cook, sure, put him in there. You just have to hope that he can break through. But if you've got some middle-tier guys like a Devin Singletary who popped off last week, don't be afraid to sit them down.
Yep. And it comes back. Every week, there's going to be someone like that that's going to boom. You be the guy that takes it. Don't just sit on 3 weeks of glory or 3 weeks ago of glory.
Yeah, I hope this was helpful to you guys. We want to do more content like this. Let us know down in the comments if this was helpful, what other type of tutorials we can put up on here for you. And until next time, guys, deuces.